morning. Welcome back to Breakfast Television. We're currently looking at a pretty okay start to your morning commute, but we do have a closure off on our city streets, so that's where I want to start. As of right now, we have westbound Eglinton closed from the DVP to Don Mills, and that's because of a collision investigation involving this truck here, or this cargo van, which was trapped for at least half an hour after hitting a temporary structure blown over near Don Mills in Eglinton. So as a result, we do still have that closure in place, and we'll keep our eye on this as the morning continues. Outside of this issue, not looking at any other problems on our major highways and expressways. It seems to be an okay drive, but it is definitely beginning to fill in. This is a look over at the eastbound Gardner, which is starting to fill in over the Humber Bridge over to about Dufferin. Also starting to see some volume on the westbound 401, just heading by the 412 over to about Salem, but even that seems to be easing. And westbound 401 through Nielsen is quite busy both in the express and collector lanes. Are you a pushy parent? Hear what NBL star and father of two Steve Carfino has to say on the subject in the parenting podcast Datitude. Visit globalstorynetwork.com. That is a look at your drive. Now sending things over to Frankie. Good morning.
Good morning, Steph. You were talking about some of the winds. We saw some of the impacts of those winds that we saw through the overnight. That wind warning now has been lifted by Environment Canada, but winds continuing out of the west right now, 40, with some gusts upwards to almost 60 kilometers per hour. Seeing a recent wind gust of 56. So that means you need extra space in between vehicles. We could still see some maybe down branches. We've been having some rolling power outages through the overnight period. As well, what we've been seeing is a really chilly kind of feel outdoors. With temperatures right now sitting around 2-3 degrees. We have a current wind chill in Toronto of -5, a wind chill in Windsor of -3, a wind chill in Hamilton -4. It's a bundle up kind of morning. With that as well, we've been even seeing some lake effect, wet snow pushing its way down through the Barrie area, being impact over the west of us. London seeing some of that right now. Toronto, we could even see a little bit of a rain-snow mix, especially over towards areas like Burlington and into Oakville. Temperatures today 5, winds continuing. Tomorrow we'll hit a high right around 7 with a risk of some isolated showers. It's only a 30% risk. We take a look into Sunday, below seasonal highs, so we should be closer to 10. We'll hit a temperature of 6 with winds out of the west, 30 to 40. Stay warm. Welcome to November.
It was a Halloween celebration turned violent. 7 people being treated for stab wounds after a wild scene near Madison and Bloor. Our Tammy Sutherland is at the scene right now. It's still very much active. Tammy, what can you see? What's going on there?
Well, we have here forensic units who are here collecting evidence just behind us here. You can see the evidence markers that are lining Madison, not just in front of this building here that's labeled the School of Practical Psychology or Philosophy, but we also have the markers that are going right across the street to other homes here on Madison Avenue just north of Bloor, and there are officers who are collecting evidence here on scene with masks and gloves and so on. Again, this is about 6.5–7 hours after this incident occurred. Now, police were called here early this morning after a fight broke out at a house party, a Halloween house costume party that was happening here on Madison Avenue. We are right in the middle of U of T, and where a lot of U of T students actually hang out, a lot of fraternities and sororities. We actually spoke to one person who tells us that he believes that there were Halloween parties not just happening at local bars here, but at several of the frat houses and sorority houses.
Well, I'm not sure. There's a lot of frats in this neighborhood and sororities, so I'm sure that a lot of them were having socials and like parties and stuff like that for Halloween. It's unfortunate, but also we're downtown Toronto. Like, I moved here from the country. Like, this stuff doesn't happen in the country, but if it was going to happen somewhere, I would. From all the things that you've heard these days, I don't know. It's sad to say that it's kind of expected here at this point, so.
And now when it comes to the numbers and how we break it down right now, so police say that one person is in custody. They're not looking for any other suspects. And they say that they believe that one person is responsible for 6 stabbings. Paramedics tell us that they were treating 7 victims in total, 7 people who were injured. We don't know whether or not the suspect is among those injuries. But again, we have 2 men who are in hospital right now fighting for their lives, 2 others with serious wounds, and then another 2 who suffered minor injuries. We'll keep you up to date, of course, throughout the morning with any updates from police. Mel, I'll send it back to you.
All right, appreciate the update. That's our Tammy Sutherland live at the scene. Okay, it is still far from a done deal, but it is now on to the next phase for Sidewalk Lab's Quayside development project. After months of negotiations, Waterfront Toronto and the Google parent company reaching an agreement yesterday. Issues resolved include how big the so-called smart city will be, down from 190 acres to just 12, south of the lakeshore between Sherbourne and Cherry. Another was committing to building an LRT, and the biggest one was privacy. There have been major concerns about data collection, but Waterfront Toronto now saying it is satisfied with protections, and Sidewalk is working with governments to set standards. Mayor John Tory saying these changes are in the right direction.
We all know that we must develop our waterfront in the right way. The waterfront is too important to get it wrong. That is why we're moving through this process so carefully.
Next steps, a full and formal evaluation with more consultations. The goal here to reach a final decision by next March that will still need approval by all 3 levels of government. Okay, we've all heard that saying, spring forward, fall back. This time we are falling back, so you're going to want to put your clocks an hour back before you head to bed on Saturday night, or if you're Devo, you're still awake. So daylight saving time ends at 2 a.m. Sunday. According to the Farmers' Almanac, it wasn't the farmers community who pushed for the changes. It actually started in earnest during the First World War in an effort to save fuel and light. There have been some efforts, of course, to get rid of this time change, including BC introducing legislation yesterday. And coming up at 7:20, we speak to a sleep expert because your body, it's going to need to adjust.